I make $32.64 an hour working in a factory here in California. And this is how much I made for 2 weeks, 80 hours. Let me break it down. How I said, this paycheck is going to be for 80 hours. And as you can see right here, gross pay was $2,600. $565 went to taxes. $205 went to deductions, which deductions pretty much my 401k mainly, which is like 160. The employee stock purchase program, which would probably be like around like $20 to $50. I'm not exactly too sure right now. And then just some like random little insurances and like things of that nature. You get what I'm saying? And net pay was $1,914. And it averages around $1,900 to $2,000 depending if I leave early from work or if I use PTO, because at my factory we work 12-hour shifts, but we only get paid overtime for the last 2 hours. I don't know why it works like that. That's how it works though. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And in this check, I worked 79 hours and some of it was used with PTO, so I didn't get paid a little bit of that overtime. That's why it's $1,900 and not like around closer to $2,000, which is if I work the full 80 hours, no leaving early or nothing like that. But it ranges from $1,900 to $2,000, how I said. To keep it on the conservative side and just to make it easier, let's say I make $3,800 a month. I do make a little bit extra depending on videos, Uber Eats, and any other money that I make on the side. But let's just keep it at $3,800 to keep it simple. And now I'm gonna run down all my expenses month to month, and you guys can see what I'll be left with at the end of the month, each month, and what I do with that money that's left over. So starting with rent, which is probably the biggest expense, and let me know down below how much you pay for rent, and if you think it's a good deal or a bad deal depending on your area. But my rent is $3,340, I believe, something like that. And I actually split that with my girlfriend, so I pay $1,150 for rent, which is not too bad, but it is on the high end. But I do live in a big metropolitan, you know what I'm saying? Nah, not too big, but like I live in a city, so you know how things are. Next payment that is pretty big is my car payment, which is $327 a month. Then insurance, which is $155 a month. And you guys can see it reducing right there. So you'll see at the end what I'm actually left with. Next one is Hulu, which is $20 a month. I was going to cancel this, but my parents actually kind of enjoy it. So I figured, you know what, $20 a month for my parents to, you know, have something to watch from time to time. It's a nice little price to pay. My phone bill, I use a cheap phone provider because I do not really use my phone too much, and the service that I get from this phone provider is actually pretty decent. It's one of those cheaper ones, and I pay it annually, which ends up being $25 a month, which is not too bad for a phone bill. Adobe Premiere Pro is the next one, which I pay $20 a month for, and that's pretty much just an editing software what I use to make these videos and stuff like that. Next one, Apple Music, is $10. And then my last one is Robinhood/Acorns. I pay $50 a year for Robinhood and $1 a month for Acorns, which ends up being like around $5 a month. So that's an extra $5 that I do there. But it does pay for itself because Robinhood does have a 3% IRA match, which ends up being like $210 or $200 and something when you max out your Roth IRA. So it pretty much pays for itself. And now the big one. And this one varies, as you guys know, is like the money that you spend either going out on fun things or buying things for yourself, whether it be a new pair of shoes, clothes, underwear, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Like razors, whatever it is. And this really varies. And lately it's been on the high end, which I am trying to reduce. But I'm going to put around $400 to $800 a month, which is freaking high, man. I really want it to be around like, let's say $300 to $600 a month. You get what I'm saying? And really lean more towards that low end. But right now it's around like $400 to $800 a month that I'm spending on all these outside things. Which, don't get me wrong, I highly am for enjoying your life, going out and, spending your time and your money on the things that you enjoy. But in my case, it has turned into a thing where I've just used it to kind of allow myself to just sit back and let things just like rot. You get what I'm saying? So I've been using it in a bad way, especially eating out, man. I've been eating a lot just because of the stress and little things you know what I'm saying? And that has made me spend $800 last month. So to be on the conservative side, we're gonna do $600 for this expense, and that will leave us with this much money right here. Quick little expense I forgot to mention. So that 1,400 pretty much turns minus 100 to 1,388 because I forgot to mention the gas slash charging of this vehicle, which I do most of my charging at work, so that pays for most of it. But on average, depending if I go on a trip, but if I don't, let's say $100 a month to like 200 depending on a trip or not. But just to keep it normal, we'll do $100. So that leaves us with $1,388 a month to invest slash save. And let's talk about that. So I'm pretty much left with $1,400 a month to save and invest. But I am trying to increase that number closer to 2,000 by cutting back on some of that eating out and some of that not essential spending that I can afford to, because how I said, I've been spending too much eating out. So cutting back on that a little bit will free up some extra money. But I'm also trying to improve my actual monthly income by getting a new job or moving up at the factory that I work at. And I'm currently taking those steps, and we'll see what comes from it. But living here in the beautiful state of California, as you guys can see, it's actually a pretty nice day. It is a little bit quote unquote harder to save some money, just the way on how things are so expensive. Rent, taxes, all these different things, right? But it is not impossible, man. It is harder. And let me tell you guys something before I get into my own personal situation. The thing is, we all have our own unique situations, man. For some of us, it's going to be a little bit harder. For some of us, it's going to be a little bit easier. But no matter what, man, it is your freaking situation, and you got to do what you got to do with it. You get what I mean? Because you can sit here all day and think like, man, what if my rent was cheaper? Or like, man, what if I didn't have to pay all of the rent? Or man, what if I this? What if I, man, all that. I understand it. I feel it. But that doesn't really help you. All you can really do is work on improving yourself and improving your situation. And how I said, man, for some of us it's going to be easier, and for some of it's going to be harder. But at the end of the day, if you got a dream, you got a goal that you're trying to get to, it's on you to do that. You know what I'm saying? But living here in California, things are not, honestly, I think I'm in a position where the rent is not too crazy, the job is pretty decent, and I happen to just come across these things as they presented themselves, and I took action in getting these things, and as a result, I'm in the position I'm in. You get what I'm saying? And I see more opportunities. I see them from time to time, and for some of them I may not get them, right? And for some of them they may not turn out the way that I've envisioned, but I'm applying myself and seeing what comes of it, because I don't want to sell myself short and thinking like, oh no, I'm not qualified, oh no, I won't be able to do that, because there's no use in that, man. Might as well try it, learn something, and keep it pushing, because we still got a freaking goal to reach. You get what I'm saying? But look, thankfully my parents pay the groceries, we cover the rent, and that's just how it works. There has been times where I had to pay all of the rent. There has been times where I was paying no rent. There has been times where it was a different type of split. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's all these different things, and you gotta just adapt and change. And one thing I had trouble with was when a change would happen, it would kind of mess me up, right? Because I would like have a specific savings plan in my head, which is bad. That's why I want to freaking really lock in and get an actual sheet or a tracking, because I really want to see what goes in and out each month. So I'm going to be working on that. But I would have a little vision in my head, and then when another expense would be added on or something would happen or this or that, it'd mess up my calculations, and then I would feel like it really set me back years, or it set me back to where the point where like I would not even reach these goals anymore. And that's not the way it works, man. There will be these little setbacks, and it sucks. But at the end of the day, you have so much freaking time, and you have so much ahead. You know what I'm saying? And you have that time to make up for that money that you weren't investing at this time. And you have that. You know what I'm saying? There's still opportunity. So don't let the things that happen to me happen to you, and getting so freaking frustrated and messed up, man. But that's another problem with money and trying to reach these things, man, that I'm trying to learn and overcome. But look, $1,400, let's say, and let's talk about how I invest and save this living here in California. I cut back as much as I can, and I've been doing a bad job at that, but I cut back as much as I can, and I'm trying to do better at that. But look, first and foremost, Acorns, I pretty much invest from $200 to $300 a month, and because it does it $5 a day, and it just does it by itself, so that ends up being like $200 to $300. And besides that, every single paycheck, this is how I break it down. Every single paycheck, I put $60 to $100 into my crypto. I put $80 to $120 into my savings. I put $100 to $200 into my Roth IRA, and I put $50 to $100 into a regular brokerage account. And that's pretty much how I split it. And I say that range because it depends on the month, man. If a month I'm spending a little bit less eating out and going out and all these little different things, I invest a little more. In months where I do too much eating out and all these other things, I invest a little less. And that's really how it works. And it's a rough draft, man, because I don't have the specific numbers. And that's why I'm really trying to get on top of that, because tracking my net worth and seeing how much it's really growing each month and where things are heading, it has really been beneficial. And I want to do that with my monthly expenses and my monthly income, because then I will really see how each dollar is getting allocated. And I feel like that is going to be such an eye-opening thing, because when I sat down and did the math on how much I spent eating out last month, it really helped me take that step back and freaking realize that, yo, I'm spending way too much. And not only is it hurting my pocket, but it's hurting my health. And I needed that freaking, that visualization, man, because like in my head I knew I was spending too much, but I didn't see it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't really seeing it besides like my physical appearance, so I kind of just ignored it. But really sitting down and doing that math, man, it really freaking opens your eyes, and it really helps you see and understand that, hey, you might need to change something up. So I really suggest taking that action and doing that for yourself, man. It has really helped me a lot, and it's something that I want to carry on now over to my monthly expenses. So that's what I'm going to be working on. But that's pretty much how I take my, let's say, $3,800 a month income and invest / save and spend. That's pretty much where, and it, of course it ranges, and some months I may have a little bit of extra money depending on some side gigs or anything like that, or some months I might have a little bit less depending if I had to replace something on the car, or we had a trip, or things of that nature. But you can't really count those too much in the sense, because they change. So I don't really track it like too deeply like that. But that's pretty much how I do it here. Let me know down below any tips or strategies that you use in your personal finances to help you reach those goals, or any steps that you want to take to improve certain aspects of those goals. But thank you guys for watching. Take care.